And so, once again, financial issues abound. And so that was really important for me.
Hello, y'all! We are going to do some videos, or a video on finances kind of around this trip and leading up to this trip and everything. But before we did that, we wanted to give you a little bit of context. So kind of our story since we've met, what things have been like financially for us. And we wanted to do this for a couple of reasons. One, to give context to our story, because I think it's helpful when you know where people are coming from and what they've been through, and just to kind of like get a sense of our story and what it's looked like, but then also context just for social media in general. So I think it's really easy. I mean, we all know this about social media. Like, we see people doing stuff on social media and we're like, that's so cool, and I could never do that, or like, how are they making it work? And it's just a good reminder that everybody has a different story. Everybody has different access to resources, and remind yourselves of that as you're like watching other people do things, whether it's something that's inspiring to you or something that you're jealous of or not. It's just good to remember that kind of thing. Like, we've heard stories of families who have done this, who like sold an app for $5 million. And they never talk about that, and they live on really minimal means. But like, if you have a big chunk of money sitting in a bank somewhere, like, that's a pretty big safety net, right?
So it makes it easy to do something like this, where you just take off and go drive and travel the world, you know?
And that doesn't take away from the inspiration of what they're doing, but like, that just provides a little bit of context. Or there are people who work on the road and make really good money working on the road. They can work remotely, and they can live with nice low costs of living being on the road, but they're able to work these jobs where they're able to keep their resources coming, right? So anyway, everybody has a different story, and we wanted to provide context on our story so that when we start talking about financial stuff, it'll make sense.
It is all of a sudden very windy in our trailer.
Let's close this one.
I'm gonna close that up for you. All right. So we're going to start all the way back to when Becky Jo and I met. We were living in an apartment in Queen Anne, Washington. If you're watching this from out of state, most of our viewers and subscribers are friends of ours from Seattle who might not know our entire story. That being said, we met. I was bartending. Becky Jo was in college getting a degree as a graphic designer. I was making good money, and we met, got married. That all you know, that's normal. And then we bought a house in Seattle, in Beacon Hill. We bought it for $289,000, and we bought it in 2009. I believe it was 2009 for $289,000. Shortly thereafter, in fact, while we were purchasing the house, while we were in the process of getting the financing for the house, Becky Jo lost her job. As a graphic designer. So she had gotten a job as a graphic designer. She got laid off during the recession. I was still bartending, and and everything took a hit. Obviously, bartending wasn't super easy. Also, being married, bartending looked different and felt different, and I was ready to be done bartending. So that's when I started getting into fitness and training, and I was doing triathlons at the time and wanting to figure that whole thing out. So yeah, that's kind of how the whole thing started. We bought a house, and she lost her job. So we were already in some sort of like financial, stress number one into financial. And I didn't want to bartend anymore. I was kind of done bartending, and so I was also looking to make a career change. And I knew what I wanted to do, and I started training. I started training out of my garage, and I started, going down that road of becoming a CrossFit trainer, which is what exactly happened. And then a CrossFit gym kind of fell into my lap through the closure of another gym that I was working at.
But in the meantime, I had gotten a job at Seattle Pacific University in the communications department, and so I held that job for 5 years. So Derek was bartending, I lost my job. Derek wanting a career change, I ended up getting another job, and that sort of freed Derek up to be able to make a career change, get into the fitness industry, because that was a little uncertain and shakier. So when we opened the gym, I was working full-time for a university, which felt like a very safe, comfortable job. It paid at least mine and Olivia's benefits. Well, we didn't have Olivia quite yet.
Right.
She was born literally when we opened the gym, so we like to do big things all at once, apparently.
Yeah, that was great. So that being said, we started out, and the gym was okay. right? I was working there. Becky Jo was bringing in the majority of the money, and we knew that it was going to take some time to start really bringing in money from the gym. I wasn't taking consistent paychecks, and we had a baby, and so once again, financial issues abound, and so that was really hard for us early on in our marriage and in this whole journey of all this stuff. And nothing really changed financially for 6 or 7 years into owning the gym.
Well, I was working full time for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we made the decision I was ready to be done with that career. I was ready for the career change, and so I quit my job and joined Derek full time at the gym.
Right.
So at that point, after 5 years of gym ownership, we went in fully together. That's when we purchased Soto. Shortly thereafter, we opened a location 2.5 is what we called it, the annex or north of the wall, because it didn't have any heat, so it was freezing.
The clubhouse. A lot of y'all know it as the clubhouse.
So that obviously made things a little more interesting too. So we now had both of us getting to put in all of our time and energy into the gym, which was great, but now we were 100% reliant on the gym for our total income.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle, no doubt. Like small business, there was running 2 locations. There wasn't a lot of time. There wasn't a lot of money. We were paying our bills, but at some point we actually had to borrow money out of our house, right? And thank goodness the housing market's been so great in Seattle, because we ended up having to borrow, I think, like $50,000 at one point to kind of pay down some debt and try to get out of some of the hole that we were in. And nothing really changed until 2019. We had our kind of like banner year as a gym. We had sold Soto, we had closed down the clubhouse, which financially for us was great, because those were kind of our losing assets, and so we were able to just focus on the Columbia City RE location, CrossFit RE location, and that was really our best year ever. We made money, we had money in the bank from the gym. 2019 was awesome, but after 10 years of struggle, we were thinking, what's next? Do we want to continue to do this? Do we want to continue to struggle and fight? What does the next 10 years look like? And that's when we started thinking, at the beginning of 2020, what does life look like? Really into 2019, what does life look like moving forward? And that's when we decided to start looking at buying the farm that a lot of people know.
We started talking about, how much longer do we want to run the gym? And it's been a great year. Should we sell it and kind of pass it off to the next wave of ownership, like somebody who has the energy and the excitement around it that we had maybe 10 years ago, and that just sort of gets lost in the struggle of running a business. So to kind of put some numbers on that, over the course of, toward the end of our gym ownership, our goal was always to take $6,000 a month as a couple. And that's what we lived on. We didn't always make that. Again, 2019 was our best year. $6,000 was always our goal. So that's $72,000 a year for a family of 3 living in Seattle, which is like, sometimes I look back at the numbers and I look at how many times we couldn't take paychecks or our own paychecks bounced so we could pay employees, and I can't wrap my head around how we actually paid our bills. I feel like we were very well taken care of. I mean, we had Derek's parents to help us, lots of support from members and friends, which was amazing. And then we had an Airbnb in our basement, and that was huge because we made $15,000 to $19,000, I think, a year on the Airbnb. And that doesn't include costs, but the costs weren't huge on that either. So really, sometimes I look back and I can't, I can't wrap my head around how all those things worked out. But that gives you some context to what that struggle might have felt like, trying to basically live paycheck to paycheck for a decade.
Yeah, a decade basically.
Which is crazy.
And always stressful, always on the edge of are we gonna have to close the gym this month? Are we gonna have to claim bankruptcy? Just for 10 years of that.
And we borrowed a lot of money and got into some real high interest loans, which was painful to pay off. So there was it was a lot of struggle financially for a really long time. And then when we started looking into possibly selling, that felt really exciting because we were we can stay members and be a part of our community, and again watch what we built flourish in somebody else's hands. That felt really exciting. And then started looking into this farm thing, and then things sort of unraveled.
2020. So right away, obviously in 2020, We were already excited about possibly selling and maybe buying a trailer and doing some traveling. But right away in 2020, obviously we got hit with the COVID crisis, which closed us down, which forced us to really shift gears. Like we couldn't sell the gym now because there wasn't anything there to sell. Like the state and the city had shut us down. And so that was like hurdle number one, was shifting gears and still trying to remain profitable to where if we were going to sell the gym, we can go, hey, look, we were profitable through the pandemic. Which, long story short, we did great, and we were close to, with some help with the PPP loan.
Yeah.
We were actually profitable during the pandemic, and we had some money in the bank, which was awesome. And then we started thinking, all right, if we're not gonna be able to just go travel, what's something that we would want to do? And we've always joked around about owning a Christmas tree farm. Obviously, we both love Christmas, and so we started looking around for Christmas tree farms for sale. We found one. We found a couple actually, and we kind of went back and forth with them. And we found this one, obviously, that we like down in Eatonville. And we won't get into specifics with the farm deal, but we will say that it's expensive to buy a business, and no fault of the money. Like the deal fell through regardless of all that stuff, but we lost some money in that. And then also congruent to that also was the lawsuit we had with the city, which we were being sued for over $500,000. And we're not going to get into too many details on that either, but we had to pay some lawyers, and we ended up settling for $15,000, which is a lot of money still. And it forced us to close down permanently. It forced us to not be able to sell the business, but actually have to close it and not move it. So because if we just would have moved the business out of the building, they would have come after us for more money because we'd still have an actual business that had income coming in.
We also didn't know. I mean, COVID still had us limited, and so the idea of whether or not we could survive a move as a business felt daunting and scary. And again, we were now focused on this idea of owning a farm, and so to separate ourselves from that and then put energy into trying to move the business felt like an impossibility. It really did.
Yeah.
Like how could we possibly do that? Like you that's where you would need a new buyer to come in with the energy to make a move like that, and we just didn't have that at the time.
Yeah.
So so we started the process of buying the farm in I think August. We got served in September. The lawsuit, that's a long story too, and maybe there will be a video about that, but we had submitted our last attempt at paperwork for that in March. Didn't hear anything back, and then got shut down because of COVID, and then the next thing we heard was you're getting sued for $500,000. So it was a little mind-blowing to wrap our heads around that. It felt so hurtful. It's literally still painful to think about.
Still
like,
very painful
the
to think
city
about.
that we love, that we like, neighborhood that we love, that we felt like we served, to just be like hit with that. We called somebody, they threatened to come after our house, so we were just like terrified of losing everything that we had ever owned. So that was just so hard. So again, we hired the lawyer to help us through the process, and he was great, and obviously we settled for $15,000, which was great, but we at this point had no money, so we had to borrow that from family, and then we were spending all this money trying to buy this farm, the Christmas tree, like if you saw it on Redfin, it was for sale for $1.9 million. Like, we weren't trying to go after something small, but we really believed in this business. We thought it was so beautiful. We really believed that we could make it thrive, and it was the same situation of it, the way that we wanted to sell the gym and pass it off to the next wave of ownership was, I think, what we felt like for the farm, like that it could be passed off to us, and we had all this excitement and energy around it and so many ideas. And I mean, even still, if that had happened, like, we would have friggin' crushed that.
Still very excited about that.
We really,
that deal,
and so we have a lot of a still heart around that, and we hope that still follows us into our future in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But it was expensive to try to buy the farm, and then we worked for 6 months at the farm for free, and we knew it was a risk, but we really believed that it was going to happen. We did. We believed it. We thought we were putting work into our future, but we didn't. We just ended up working for free and losing tens of thousands of dollars trying to make that deal happen. So that's like going into 2021 is kind of where we were. So we were like struggling financially, but also held all this hope about what the future was going to hold, and that we really believed in, and saw this beautiful kind of like farm life for us, and then it fell through.
The whole thing, basically, 2021 was lawsuit at the beginning, finally getting settled, and then losing the farm, and us being like, well, we wanted to travel anyway.
Yeah. So we had already had the trailer. Our idea on the farm was that we were going to actually live in the trailer and rent the farmhouse. So we already like had the trailer, and we had already kind of started wrapping our heads around life in the trailer. And I was like, maybe it's just time to go. Like we didn't want to do business in Seattle anymore because we felt so hurt by the city. Honestly, as much as we love our community, we just needed to step away from it. And I was like, I told Derek, I was like, I kind of daydream about just getting in a trailer and like leaving and just starting fresh. And I think that's normal in life to just want like a fresh start. And it's been such a gift being able to like have this time together with the three of us before we are the four of us, and just having this adventure has been really great. And what a blessing. I mean, we started talking about selling the house and started wrapping our heads around we can sell our house for like quite a bit of money right now.
Yeah.
And that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of how we got to this point here. This is part one of a two-part series. We're sorry, it's a 16-minute video. We didn't mean for it to go this long, but the idea here is that we want to set up some context for you so you can hear our story before we tell you about what we did when we decided to make the move. So once we decided to make the move, that will be part two, and how we decided to sell everything and how we ended up here. And then I think the next video will be like a tour of this amazing trailer, because clearly it's amazing, and Becky Jo really makes spaces home, so it's really awesome to have that. So look forward to video 2. We're going to go over the financials. Now that you kind of have some context of why we decided to do this craziness, you'll see that next video. So we'll catch you on the next one. Give us a like and a thumbs up and a follow if you haven't yet. And we love you, and we're sorry this video is so long, but we're stoked that you were here for the whole thing. We love you guys.